Hello everyone and welcome back to today's video. And today we are going to be doing today's scenario of what if so-and-so countries created an empire. So first off, we're going to be starting off with China. So first, hypothetically, this is all a hypothetical scenario. Um, so if China went after Taiwan this early, World War III would start already. They went after India, World War III would start. Vietnam, World War III would probably start. Mongolia, uh, relationships with Russia would weaken heavily, and your supply of oil is basically gone. Go after one of your allies in the Middle East, Pakistan. You would be probably sanctioned by a lot of countries in your surroundings. So they will go after the Indonesian, or no, not Indonesia, Indo-Chinese countries. For example, Myanmar, also known as Burma, is in a heavily weakened state right now. So they're getting jumped. Yeah, you heard me. They're getting jumped by Thailand and India, who are working together. Um, India is saying, "What? You can't do this. This was our land. This is our land." China, no, not China. India says no, and they're already walking through territory. Thailand is only on this war because they want the tail of Myanmar. I mean, it's a tail. Y'all gotta agree with me. It's definitely a tail. But after a few days, China will immediately begin to move through these. I believe these are mountainous, but like they're not mountainous at the same time. They're hilly. They're full of hills. That's all I gotta say. Extreme plateaus. But we will see China continue through, and eventually they will make their way past the Indian corridor, or past the corridor that India is trying to create, and India completely reaches down to this little area, almost reaching down to surround the entire Gulf. Because by the way, India owns these islands right here, not Indonesia. India owns these islands. So they could have almost the entire eastern part completely owned in their own territory. By this time, though, we will see China capture the capital before Thailand, surprisingly, but that was because they had to waste a lot of troops and maneuver very quickly. Thailand will end up cutting them off in the end, where they would not be able to expand any further down, and India will do the same. Now, we gotta do the peace treaty. I just came back from the peace treaty, and I'm pretty proud of myself for how I did it. So we ended up seeing all these countries taking up quite a bit of land, and um, I would say Thailand got the most valuable parts. Even though they took the capital of Myanmar, they still got really valuable parts of the area because they got this entire Gulf over here, which, in my opinion, makes sense why they got the most out of this war. Like it was just overall best. Well, best land quality to have overall, yes, but every other one's probably not. I would probably say, yeah, India got the most amount of territory, and Myanmar's capital does not exist anymore. Also known as Burma, in case no one knew. And we will also see India claim the most amount of land, where they also control around this much. Let me just show y'all its islands. They control around this much of territorial waters, including international ones, probably excluding like that much. This is how much water they control. Yeah, they can control quite a lot of water. As now we will completely see all of these territories of Myanmar quickly go over. to the Indians. And now, last but not least of today's episode, China. Get it, solve this. There we go. Last but not least, China of today's winning episode, quote unquote, will gain the least valuable, but the second most gained amount of territory out of this war. Though they are extremely close, they don't want to go to war with Thailand because they just got in a fight with them. They fought alongside them. But also, they don't want to fight India as they are a rising power and they have more population than India, or China, I mean. So it wouldn't be a good idea to fight them. So don't. But we do have an ally coming out of this, Pakistan. And surprisingly, Bangladesh. As Bangladesh doesn't really like how they are getting surrounded by India, especially like all the way over here as this area, they could easily cut it off from China. Pakistan, they just want their claims over here, which is probably just like there, but still. And China still wants their claims all the way over here, which now would look like this. And Bangladesh's claims would probably be like this much. Wouldn't be a lot, but it would still have quite a bit of land. After all that, we will see another ally appear, and I bet y'all knew it was coming. North Korea, like seriously. Also, weirdly enough, Kyrgyzstan. I haven't heard much about that, but I've heard like some relationships going on between China, so I'm just gonna include them part of it. And that's about it. That's about it, and we'll see another alliance come out of this, not joining the alliance, but an opposing alliance. It will be India, including their ridiculously small islands over here, Thailand, which completely cuts off China off from anything else, South Korea, because like North Korea's in it, so you obviously gotta have South Korea, Taiwan, and Japan. Oh, you could even include Philippines and Vietnam to some extent. We're not going to include them yet. But now we will begin to see um, China just quickly roll through Bhutan, just like they just don't exist anymore. All the borders are gone. Well, they wouldn't roll through, but we're going to ignore geography right now, which really, really grinds my gears. But we will see Nepal not join on their side, but instead get invaded by, weirdly enough, the blue team, or in this case, India, as they will become Indian sovereign territory now, which grows the everlasting border with China. Sri Lanka will remain neutral. They don't want to be involved in this. They might be, though. But we will see China move through the Sea of Vietnam, Sea of Philippines, Sea of South China, Sea of Malaysia. I don't know what to call it. They're just moving through this territory. But we will see them attacking Myanmar, which I believe is one of the countries that claim this territory. So yeah, good luck. I don't think that's where Singapore is. I think they're actually like right there. So I'm just gonna move them there. Yeah, that looks a lot better. But we will see Myanmar, or not Myanmar, Malaysia getting attacked in this war. And yeah, the blue team, or kind of blue team, is not going to respond to this, but they will invite other surrounding nations, which will be Vietnam, and obviously the Philippines. They told them they should have joined, but we will see another ally appearing, Laos, or for China, and not Cambodia because they don't want to start the war early yet. and we will see China attacking the Malay Peninsula or Malay territory of Borneo over here. I believe that this is what the island is called. But they will reach Brunei, the home territory of Brunei, and they will continue to move through the jungles of Borneo. Yes, I know there are jungles, but I'm ignoring them. As we will see them completely capture this island down here, including several other islands that are owned by Malaysia. For example, these two islands over here, or four I guess, but they will quickly capture them and they will fall underneath the territory of China now, quote unquote. And they will begin to move through this area over here, and it's become clear China wants the Strait of Malacca. They will quickly take over the capital of Malaysia, and now we can start with this peace treaty. Right, peace treaty is done, and yeah, yeah. As we will see, China completely annex both most of the island, the Malay part of Borneo, and these four other islands that are owned by Malaysia. And this area of Malaysia will just simply go to the Chinese government, which will now look like this. And if you're wondering, this is a part of the puppet state of Malaysia over here. Yeah, they became a puppet state of China, as China felt like they couldn't have controlled this far of a territory or having such different beliefs. Though we don't talk about these two territories over here. But now we're gonna see the invasion of Cambodia by the blue team, where they will just. I'm just not even gonna. Should I? Sure. As we will see the invasion of Cambodia by the entirety of the blue team, where they just it's all of the blue team. Do you think they're gonna survive this? No, they would not survive this. But now we're gonna see the peace treaty, and just for the sake of the video, I'm just gonna try to make it longer, so do the do the peace treaty with y'all. Yeah, yeah. As we will see the Thais completely take over the capital region of Cambodia, but we will see Vietnam take over the other the eastern half of Cambodia, and including their small island right there. Not small, but did I draw it on the capital layer? I did. Okay. But we will continue to see the Vietnamese and the Thai work together to try to retake control of the quote unquote South Chinese Sea. Also, this island is Filipino. And these other islands are part of the USA except for these. That this is Federation of Micronesia. Yeah. But we will see a new ally of China, and it will be Sri Lanka. So yeah, China has all little allies surrounding them, and we will finally see something else happen. We will see China invade the Mongolians, where now this has broke the camel's back and it has included Russia. I'm just kidding. Whereas again broke the camel's back and boom, they've declared war on you, which includes the rest of the red team, which by the way can hold its own, but we're not going to include. We're but they're a lot weaker nations. For example, Laos, Sri Lanka, now Malaysia, North Korea, and Kyrgyzstan. Pakistan can definitely handle its own, as they had signed a treaty or a pact with Saudi Arabia. But that won't come into play here, as we're playing 2025, August. What? This is a huge but. We will see Chinese military not realizing that they had been declared war on by the Blue Alliance. All of their military is all the way up here. Their military is all the way up there. So they don't realize until it's So they're about like not that deep into Mongolia, or well, deep enough where they were close to their capital, probably like this much. But rising tensions with Russia means no more oil. So now you got to look at Iran. But Iran's is allied with Russia, and I'm pretty sure they're not really that allied with China. So we can't add them as an ally. So they have all they have to do is just buy stuff from Saudi Arabia or from the Middle East. That should be easy. Or Venezuela. Nope, it just turned January 3rd of 2026. Yeah, um, he's gone. But we will see the North Koreans ready begin to invade into past the demilitarized zone of the Korean Peninsula, but they will quickly get halted by Japanese and by Korean troops. Which, due to the war with Taiwan, we will not see the U.S. come into play. As I do not think U.S. in real life would actually join in this, but instead provide huge aid to the Taiwanese. But for the Japanese, oh, that would probably be a huge exception for them, as they reply to on probably quite heavily on Japan for their Eastern theater happening over here. So we will not see the including of USA. In fact, they will be neutral in this war. But now we will begin to see other nations in the blue team begin to invade. For example, Vietnam and Thailand, but this area will mostly be invaded by Vietnam, which at a point where they basically just collapse. Though we will see some National Guard from China and stuff like that move in a little bit, but it's not to a point where they are fully revived. It's just underneath Chinese control. Now over here, um, yeah, India will quickly begin to move into Bangladesh as they want to secure their regions, so they will invade into the northern area of Bangladesh and into their little panhandle over here, which will effectively make them look like this now. So yeah, they're slowly weakening out. And now we'll even see the Indians also invading into Sri Lanka. Um, actually, Sri Lanka was actually bought into this war as the Chinese government had bought them into their alliance, like buying their alliance. You give them money to be for them to be on your side. So yeah, Thailand will actually send most of their military into the southern region, but due to the Chinese troops being moved out of this area, we will actually see a huge rebellion um, of the Malay, as they will rebel against the uh, Chinese government. So yeah, they're kind of bad, but kind of not. So yeah, the puppet regions will rebel against China. So now here's the huge predicament here. Would China have a huge amount of troops stationed around this area so that way they can gain access to the Indian Ocean and separate them? Most definitely they would. But I'm gonna say no. And after the Indians had sent their troops to Sri Lanka, they had quickly sent them back into their lands and did a little bit of naval barrages of Pakistan dams and water sources, which may be a war crime, but we're not including Canada today. As we will see India quickly invade into these regions of Pakistan, and oh, China's almost done with Mongolia. They're nearing collapse. Well, Mongolia is, not China. Maybe. But now we will see the complete pushback of North Korea. We're at a point where now the South Koreans are beginning to invade into North Korea now, and they don't really get much success in this area over here, as this is mostly Chinese dominated, maybe with like one North Korean boat, but that's it. As this is Chinese Navy, I would definitely think Chinese Navy would definitely be superior in this war, as they would probably be going all the way down here. And yeah, yeah. But they would not reach the most of the coast of Vietnam. They would definitely be almost surrounding all of Taiwan or PR. How do you say it? This is PRC. Whatever this is, Republic of ROC. I think. Yeah, ROC. But now we're going to see the effective military of these said countries come into play. As now Pakistan will begin to invade into Kashmir, along with, again, a little amount of Chinese troops. But this is where most of the Pakistani troops are with China, and most of the other troops are handling in the southern regions, where they want to try distracting them and pushing them away a little, which will go successful until Bangladesh now looks like this. Yeah. But we will also begin to see heavy amounts of US supplied troops or volunteers and armor coming towards Japan. And no, it's not. We're not including nuclear bombs in this. I'm just gonna say it. We're not including nuclear bombs. No. But we will see the capture of the capital of Pakistan after holding several days or weeks, maybe even months of sieges, where they will fall over to the Indians. But that does not stop the morale of the Pakistani troops. Even though it heavily weakened their morale, they will continue to fight in spirit for their country to try to stay alive. And yeah, um, Pakistan troops are beginning to lose due to morale and loss of government control at a point where they will just completely surrender to avoid full collapse. Where now they will begin to push into Kashmir again, though China is trying to re-liberate Pakistan a little, though it was not successful. And now we'll even see all of the Malay Peninsula become uh, Malay again. They're now not Chinese. They're not Wong anymore. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, YouTube. But we will see finally Chinese troops military will begin to recuperate. And this is the scary part. Chinese troops are moving towards South Korea. Yeah. But instead, we will actually see these South Koreans pushing them heavily back at a point where they almost have captured Pyongyang, and at a point where they're almost fully surrounding the city. And this will surprise the Chinese, and they decide, we will hold a stalemate with you. You can hold on to North Korea, and they will agree, which will effectively let them exit this war, like so. Where now the Japanese, well, probably not the Japanese, but the South Koreans will definitely, probably, most likely leave on the war because they get North Korea. But now we will see the invasion of as we will see the Chinese invasions of Taiwan. Despite previous relationships, Taiwan will almost fold instantly because of how their country is located and where most of their population is, which is facing towards the PRC, which will effectively let them fully surrender. Probably lots of guerrilla warfare. There will be lots of fighting. And now we will see the Chinese military try to invade into the Isles and the islands of Japan. Oh no! Oh no! I just heard of something. I heard that they just failed in the invasion of Japan, and typhoons are coming straight after them. Whoa! I'm just kidding. But we will see the Japanese hold a very fair fight all the way into these seas over here. Where at this point, it seems a lot more annoying to fight them rather than go after the other nations that are invading you. Vietnam is invading you like a lot. They're taking over Macau and Hong Kong with the help of Thailand and a bunch of Filipino troops and Malay troops. Yeah, it doesn't look like you're gonna do too good. And China begins to feel something happen within their own nation. They feel a sudden erupt of people, perhaps rebellions. That would never happen to them, right? Oh, you would be surprised. Tibet and Xinjiang will rebel. That way they can hold their own nation. But we will finally see lots of pushback from the Chinese troops all the way in the south. We're at a point where they begin to push almost directly into Vietnam. Also, they just quickly invade into their past territories. So that becomes blue, I guess. I don't know. But these territories will try to get quickly reliberated by the Indians and by most like half of the military of Thailand, I guess. By this time, they've been fighting for several years by now, and they feel like they need to have a sit down talk and try to peace, which will happen in a peace treaty that will be coming up right around now. Hey, I just came back with the peace treaty, and this is what I decided to come up with. And I'm sorry for these terrible borders of China. And yes, I know Tibet is a lot smaller, but I decided to make them bigger because India probably would have wanted quite a bit of a comeback. And I realized some of these borders do not. India would probably want some of this. We tried to retake some of this. I realize that. Okay, yeah, sorry. Right there. And this is the peace treaty I decided to come up with, and this is basically the reformation of the British Raj, as now we see the Indians basically form their own version of the British Raj, or their own empire. As now the Indians will take over the most of the entire eastern regions of Pakistan, including a lot more of Kashmir. They will take the entirety of Bangladesh and most of Bhutan, and they will end up taking quite a bit of territories from where Burma or Myanmar is located, and where some of the modern day Chinese territories are located as well. And now we will focus on to Thailand. Originally, they were going to annex all of Malaysia if had they not rebelled, and the rest of the territories over here were going to be given over to the Philippines. But instead, we will see due to the Malaysians rebelling, they will simply just get their peninsula back with no other pieces of land. Also, uh, crap. India also gets all of. India will also get all of Sri Lanka, and also Kyrgyzstan got left out of the war with nothing wrong. Like nothing was put against them. But now we'll see the Thais or the Thailands finally get their portion of this war. You don't exist anymore, Laos. Thailand will simply just annex more territories of Thailand, or not Thailand, Myanmar and Laos, which will look like this. as they basically become Siam without this region over here. And yeah. Now again, Malaysia, they didn't get their entire land territories given back, so they will just end up looking with like their peninsula and some of their other islands. Also, their capital will stay the same. Now Vietnam, they will gain around half of Laos and quite a large part of China trying to get back at them. Also, Macau and Hong Kong is independent now. Originally, I was going to give this over to Vietnam, but I thought that means they would have to be over here, and I figured that would be too much. So I figured, or I went against it. So now we'll see the Philippines. The Philippines will end up taking over this entire region over here, which will go well for them at first. Well, it did go well for them. But now the other regions of the Malay Peninsula will simply be split between Indonesia and Brunei. Brunei will just end up getting quite a large portion where they will get out of a micronation. I don't know if they even were, but if they were, they're not a micronation anymore. And you can actually see them a lot better on the map. Yeah, you can. All the way over here. But we will see Indonesia take away quite a large portion of Borneo from Malaysia, where now they basically control most of the region over here. New conflicts, yay. Also, Taiwan is handed over to China as it had been districted underneath the Chinese government. So now they are finally fully Chinese. Now Mongolia. Your territory had been split apart into almost to half. They were originally going to annex around this much of Mongolia, but everyone else said no, you're not allowed to. So they will just simply annex that much. Oh my gosh, border war. Japan did get a little bit of land out of this, like a few small islands. They were originally going to get quite a large portion of Taiwan because they figured since Taiwan had been underneath Japanese history for so long, they were originally going to get like that much, around half of the island, just East and West Taiwan. That would be wonderful. But now we will see North Korea just fully annexed by the Southern Koreans. At first, it would be economically prosperous for the South Koreans, but eventually it would slowly even out. But yeah, this is today's Empire video, where yes, they did get crippled, but at the end they still won, as they got heavily indebted to many nations. Where now their prizes over here in the U.S. is not even worth even more, but now they can't sell it because of how crippled they are. See y'all next time, and what? I'll see y'all next time in the next video.